Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a wonderful weekend, a good Mother's Day. I'll get started on the call here today. Just a few pointers before we get into the main topic. So if I can make my screen work here. So we talked about the elevator speech last week, and bad on me. I must not have been as succinct or as clear as I should have been. So I still had a lot of guys wondering, well, that was great, Mike, and how you created that elevator speech. Now, what would be a good one for me? Guys, you get that this is a good one for you, except you don't put Rochester in there? What do you, let me get some answers in this. What do you put there instead of Rochester, guys? What do you put there instead of Rochester? Yeah, your local area, Craig, exactly. So this is what we created for you. And again, we broke it down into three little snippets of, I get homeowners here in Rochester born before 1956, an average of 3,612 in annual government and private benefits they weren't aware of. They were aware that they were owed. So yeah, put your own town in there. And if you're going to drop anything in here, what could you drop? Let's see if you remember that. If you could drop anything in this first paragraph, what would you drop? So if it's too much of a mouthful. 1956. You could drop 1956 because you're looking at the person who you're talking to. You know if that's the case. Okay? So any questions on this? This is the mini elevator speech that you would use. And it's under the, on the website. Oh, we're getting a bounce back there. On the website under the Getting Started Toolbox elevator speech. Make sense, everybody? Okay. So let me ask you a question. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because last week I had two advisors tell me that they had money managers that had figured it out. So what do I say to anybody who tells me that, guys, I harp on this and harp on this and harp on this, and I'm sorry to sing to the choir here, but the reason I do is because this invariably happens. So last week I had two different advisors tell me that they had money managers that figured it out. What do I say about money managers that figured it out? Can I get some answers to that? That's right, Craig. Nobody I mean, yeah, wait till next year, exactly right. They don't exist. Because if somebody had actually figured it out, how many managers would there be? Yeah, there would only be one. And over the last 50 years, how many, 100 years, how many really smart guys have tried to figure it out? We're talking Nobel Prize winning economists. We're talking unbelievable hundreds of millions of dollars spent on software, algorithms, computers. And, you know, a good indication of that is hedge funds. So in order for a hedge fund to even be formed, they have to have what? Well, before a hedge fund, yeah, exactly, Mark. If there really somebody figured out the minimum client size would be 50 million. So let's talk about hedge funds for a second. In order for a hedge fund to even be formed, they have to be have come up with what? A bad idea or a good idea? Some way that they've beaten the market or not beating the market. I mean, you can't just start a hedge fund with a bad idea, can you? You have to have something that, yeah, you have to have an amazing idea. You have to have a proprietary strategy that people are going, oh, wow, that's awesome, right? So here's the funny thing. So first of all, what happened to all the people like Icahn and all the big hedge fund managers in 2008? They were taking over the market from 2000 to 2008. They were taking over the market, and by the end of 2008, guess what? Not a single one of the biggest 8 hedge funds were gonzo. Gonzo. But over the, now that the market's doing well, guess what happened to a bunch of hedge funds reformed? But here's the funny thing. In 2015, 917 hedge funds folded. 2014, 864 folded. So guess what? They keep, you know what? During the good times, hedge fund managers are formed because, hey, look at all this money we're making. Look at all this money we're making. Well, guys, who makes money during the up markets? Who makes money during the up markets? Everybody. And then when there's even a tiniest of a hiccup in the market, look at what happens to all these geniuses. So do you get why I say, guys, your money manager hasn't figured out. So the only thing we talk about on the equity side is what? We tell our clients that when the market goes up, your accounts will go up. When the market goes down, your accounts are going to go down. And hopefully the markets go up more often than they go down. Make sense? Oops, I'm on the wrong screen here. Also, General accepted accounting principles. This is another reason why your guy can't have figured it out. What percentage of the S&P 500 companies last year used the general accepted accounting principles? First of all, let's see if we can get an answer to this. Why do we want people to use generally accepted accounting principles? Why do we want companies to use generally accepted accounting principles? Consistency, right, Craig? So then we can figure out global standards, so then we can, if they're all using the same accounting principles, at least then when we're looking at the numbers, then we're comparing everybody across the board on the same level playing field. But what percentage of the, you want to take a guess on what percentage of the S&P 500 companies used the general accepted accounting principles last year? 10% in 2015, down from 18% in 2009. So why do I say this is an indication of why your guy can't have figured it out? Why is this an indication that your guy can't have figured it out? Because the information that he's using is what? That's right, Robert. All the numbers are fuzzy. I think that's the best way to put it. All the numbers are fuzzy. Inconsistency in reporting, right, Kevin? So I don't care how smart your guy is. If what they say, what's this old saying? What's the old saying? Garbage in, garbage out. So if he's got a great algorithm, but all the information he's feeding into the algorithm is crap, guess what? Crap in, crap out. Garbage in, garbage out. Make sense? So I'm sorry to keep harping on this, but invariably you get it, and then some of you will drift back towards, oh, wait. So, some marketer, some wholesaler will come in and convince you that what? They figured out how to beat the market. Can't beat the market. Can't beat the market. That's why we do what? That's why all of our clients are what? 50-50, 50-50, 50-50. Because, hey, we want to be in the market, and we want things that are guaranteed. And on the guaranteed side today, we have a guest, Mitch from Athene, who is going to talk to us about a new concept that a lot of guys are really, really excited about. So I'm going to have Mitch kind of go through that with you today.
Well, thank you very much. Can you see the screen now, or?
Perfect.
Beautiful. Well, hey, guys, good morning to you. Oh, I'm already going a little bit too fast. Look at that. I got a couple things to talk to you about today. It is a little bit longer of a presentation, but I think if you stay tuned to the end, you're going to have a sales idea at the end that you're going to be able to go to your clients and hopefully have 1 or 2 or 3 sales just like that. And that's the whole opportunity for you. But today I'm here to talk to you about index selection, which really comes to play with our previous topic about trying to make money with hedge funds and things of that nature. Well, a much safer way to go obviously is an FIA and with the guarantees, but let's talk about index selection from a company standpoint. I'm going to touch base on the DOL. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the newest and best income solution in the industry, period. So for the most part, those are the 3 topics we're going to talk about today. Lastly, when you talk about net income to the client, when we look at index selection, a famous quote that you may hear all the time, who calls you? A marketer from XYZ company. The first thing they say is, Mr. and Mrs. Advisor, guess what? We just added another new index to our portfolio. It seems like insurance companies keep adding these indexes just to say me too. I know 1 or 2 companies have like 15 different indexes. So what I want you to think about when you're choosing an FIA company is quality over quantity. I mean, if I say, hey, I've got a cell phone too, you could see the brick that I have from 1980, or you can get a modern day iPhone. And obviously the modern day iPhone, I'd rather have 1 of those than 50 of the old bricks for sure. So why alternative indices? What's happened over the last few years is we've seen some tightening of caps and spreads due to the low interest rate environment. All companies are looking for ways to make products look a little bit more sexy and more consistent. And the only thing to keep in mind is that insurance company methodologies are quite different. Most companies just use index performance as the only criteria for index selection. And I want you to think about that, because you would say, well, Mitch, that makes sense. Index performance should be the primary criteria. And I'm going to tell you why it shouldn't be in a minute. But let's go. So we don't just go out and pick indices. We haven't added a major indice to our portfolio in over a year and a half. We're very, very selective about adding new indices to the portfolio, and here's why. What are the three things that Athene looks for in an index? One is brand, two is exclusivity, and three is performance. And when you combine all three of those things together, we feel that we can bring more net value to the consumer for you with our product portfolio. So brand is quite simply name recognition. Reputation equals credibility, immediate credibility. They're specialists within their discipline. They're proven winners with great track records. The two new brands that we're introducing today, one is Morningstar, which I'm sure all of you have heard of, and the other one is BNP Paribas, which is a worldwide leader in the banking industry. Morningstar, obviously, if you've sold any funds in your life, or even if you haven't sold funds, I'm sure you've heard of them in the past. They're a leading provider of independent investment research in North America. They provide data on over 500,000 investment offerings. So very, very well known. The indice that we're adding is our dividend yield focused target volatility 5. And we'll go through that a little bit later. BNP Paribas has a presence in 75 different countries. It's really a bank for a changing world. It's ranked as the world's 11th most valuable brand in banking. And this BNP MAD 5 is just an unbelievable indice, and it's a very, very cool way for us to bring you more net value to your consumers. Exclusivity. Obviously, with those two brands, we have an exclusive relationship. We're going to be the only company that has those brands on our portfolio. They're unique indexes with great stories. And obviously, they're a specialist in the discipline or their methodology that they use to create those indices. Lastly, performance. So performance is critical. I'm not saying it's not critical. You must have a great backcast story through all market cycles and an optimistic outlook on current and future performance regardless of where the market's going to be. You know, some indices may have looked great over the last 25 years in a decreasing bond environment, but as bond and interest rates start rising in the future, they may not perform as well. So we're looking for something that's going to perform in and out of market cycles. So great performance doesn't always mean the customer gets more. And you say, well, why would that be? Well, the first thing you got to remember with an FIA is what? We use options in this portfolio in order to give you the guarantees and also to give you the participation. So if option costs are very high and participation limits are very low and fees are high, you got to take all that into account because the net value of the client may not be what you think it is. And here's a great example. Compare a variable annuity that averaged 7% return for the last 10 years versus a fixed index annuity that earned 5% over the same period. And I would say to you, well, which one performed better? And you might say, well, Mitch, hey, it depends. And that's a great answer. And the reason is, after you take out all the fees, and the average VA fee out there is 3.5% between mortality and expense and the fund fees, the net value to the consumer is better with the FIA. You would have earned a net of 3.5% versus 5% with an FIA. So you always got to look at the fees and the cost of options over time. So again, 3 ways we create more value for you and for your clients is 1, consistent pricing on our caps and spreads. 2, our volatility control indices have a lower or more controlled option cost. Over the long haul, they don't fluctuate as much. Therefore, we have more consistent returns. And also, another way we look to get you more net customer value is going to a longer hold period. You'll notice with the BNP and the Morningstar index that we just announced, there are 2-year hold periods. And the reason for that is it significantly drops the cost of the options, number 1, and number 2, 96% of the time, a 2-year hold period will outperform a 1-year hold period. So in summary, what are we looking for? We're looking to find the optimal option cost to provide your client with the greatest opportunity for performance and, more importantly, bring more net value to your client. And the proof is in the performance. So let's take a look at our new indices and how they perform on our new platform. Well, here's our Performance Elite 10 and our 15, and you can see the BNP MAD 5 and the Morningstar Dividend Yield Target 5 Index. and take a look at where they're coming up. Look at the worst versus the best and what the average is. These are some exemplary returns within this portfolio. So when you're evaluating indices from different companies, don't ask yourself how it performed in the past, but ask yourself how it's going to perform in the future. That's really the key to it, and where can you get more net value to the customer. So briefly, let's talk about the DOL. This is the big hot topic for all of us in the FIA space. There were some things that were announced in the last month. I know there's a couple of you ready to jump off of a cliff. I'm here to say, hey guys, one day at a time. There's a lot of things that can happen in the next year and a half. We've got a lot of time here. Let's talk about some of the outcomes of this particular rule. So the fiduciary rule, basically what came out was anybody that renders investment advice to plans, plan sponsors, fiduciaries, beneficiaries of IRAs, IRA owners, and you get a fee or compensation, then basically they're labeling you as a fiduciary investment advisor under this rule. And the investment advisor requirement is the sale must be in the best interest of the client, which I'm sure you already are doing that, and the prohibited transaction rules apply. So what that means is that any advisor out there, if they're going to sell a product, it's going to require an exemption to be met in order to be paid a commission. There are a couple situations where it's not going to trigger a fiduciary standard, but most of them are going to trigger the standard. So you need a prohibited transaction rule. So what does best interest mean? Well, investment advice that is in the best interest of the retirement investor when the advisor and financial institution providing the advice act with care, skill, prudence, and diligence under the circumstances then prevailing that a prudent person acting in a like capacity would based upon their investment objectives, risk tolerance, blah, 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 without regard to financial and other interests. Those are the keys. Care, skill, and prudence, and diligence under circumstances then prevailing that a prudent person would act, and without regard to financial remuneration. So what are two exemptions that are going to be able to apply to this due to this new ruling? Well, one is the BIC, or the Best Interest Contract Exemption, and two is the 8424. Now, here's where it gets a little hairy. We had thought originally, when the proposal for this rule came out, that fixed index annuities were going to come under the 8424, which is a little less intrusive. When this came out, index annuities came in the BIC, or the Best Interest Contract Exemption. So currently, variable, any type of equities, index annuities are all included in the BIC, and 8424 right now is only MYGA and SPIA. So what does that mean to us, really? Well, best interest contract exemption, prudent advice is based on the investment objectives, risk tolerance, financial circumstances, and need of the retirement investor, without, again, regard to financial or other interests for the advisor. No more than reasonable compensation, and that's kind of a gray area, and make no misleading statements about investment transaction compensations or material conflicts of interest. So, I mean, it's not much different than we are today. The question is, what is reasonable compensation? So what lies ahead for us for FIA? The bottom line, hey, listen, guys, the end of the world's not here. I want you to relax a little bit, take it one day at a time. We're still sorting through the 1,000 pages of the ruling, looking for antidotes. There's going to be some secondary stuff that's going to come down the pike. We're going to slowly but surely over the next year and a half fine-tune this to make sure that you guys are aware of what you have to do and how we can work together. We're not leaving this business. We're continuing to write business here. There may be some changes coming. There may be some new procedures, maybe some more paper, obviously more disclosure and documentation, but it's nothing new. When I started this business 25 years ago, an application was 2 pages and a check. And the last time I checked, it was like 45 pages. So if it's going to be 50 pages long, it is what it is. Just don't worry about it for now. The bottom line is that business is still going to be written, and people still need retirement advice. And you guys are selling one of the best products out there, products that don't get you into trouble, and consumers just eat them up and they love them. Couple things to think about here. We've got plenty of time to adapt this. You know, the final rule was posted on April 6th. The effective date of the rule is June the 7th. However, there may be an additional comment period, and there are a couple things I'll talk about on the next slide that may throw a little wrench into things. But the bottom line is that the applicable date of this rule is next April. Okay, you're going to start seeing some compliance requirements and some phase-in over that period of time, and then January 1, 2018, the phase-in would be complete, and everything would be required at that point. So that's a year and a half away, guys. You got plenty of time before we get there. So I want you to relax, number one. Don't get all worried about this today. For right now, it's business as usual, okay? And with that being said, there are also a number of things that are in the works right now. You know, it's not really over till it's over. There are a number of legal challenges that are being arisen right now, that are rising right now. One is that they did not do a complete analysis of the economic impact to especially the distribution channel of the FIAs. It's also infringing on state regulation of fixed index annuities and fixed annuities. The rule departs significantly from the scope of ERISA and the original intent of that. It also violates the Harkin Amendment, how Harkin Amendment treats 151 on the fixed index annuity rules. And there was no comment period for FIA carriers to talk about this before they shifted from 8424 over to the BIC. So there are a number of legal ramifications that are brewing as we speak. I think you should just sit tight, business as usual, and just do what's in the best interest of your client, just like you do today. I mean, suitability today is much tougher than what it was 3 and 5 and 7 years ago, and suitability is taking care of a lot of this stuff right up on the front end. So just keep plugging away, and we'll keep you posted. 8424 is the other exemption, and prior to the execution of the transaction, the following information must be provided to the client in a manner someone with no special expertise in insurance or investment matters could understand. Obviously, number one is the disclosure of the relationship with the company. 2 is commission disclosure, and we're not quite sure what that means. Is it what you get? Is it what the National Marketing Organization get? Is it the gross dealer compensation? Plus a statement about charges, fees, and discounts and penalties or adjustments. So that's where we might possibly be at the end of this thing, which is obviously a little less onerous than the fiduciary standard and having a contract agreement with a particular client. But just keep in mind, business as usual. Know that this is on the horizon. We're going to keep you updated as things continue to go forward and we get more clarification on things in the future. So we've talked a little bit about index selection, a little bit about the DOL. Let's talk about how we can grow your business and grow your clients. Okay, and we're talking about 321 Grow or 321 Blast Off. We're very excited to talk about 3 new product solutions. We have one for accumulation, one for income and protection, and another one for just guarantees. We have 2 new indices, which I briefly mentioned earlier, all brought to you by one company, Athene. So if you're doing business with Athene, and I ask you, when you think of Athene, what do you think of? Well, right now, the people that are selling our products would think of accumulation. They would think of Performance Elite. If they sold our Target 5, they would think of a short-term CD alternative. If they sold Target Horizon, they would think about our Tripler, our opportunity for stacking income, and the Tripler protection for nursing home confinement. Benefit 10 is probably the best all-around product in the industry today, covering 5 different benefits and the best RMD solution in the marketplace. But when you look at that, you say, well, you know, what's the missing piece of the puzzle? And Target was a pretty good product. The problem was it was based off of Social Security, so there was no roll-up rate, no payout rate. So when I say, well, what are we missing? Well, I would say number one was competitive income that could be compared to our peers. So if you take advantage of 5Q and ECA and they use Annuity Rate Watch, we would never show up on an income calculator because Target Horizon was a Social Security product. There was no roll-up rate and no payout rate. You actually had to run the illustrations separately. But today we've come out with a product that is number one in guaranteed income, stacked income, and also has an earnings index income option on the payout side, one that you can compare to our peers on lbcalc.com or Annuity Rate Watch or any of those calculators that are out there in the marketplace. We also came out with a MYGA product. We didn't have a MYGA product. How crazy is that? We're a fixed annuity company, and we don't even have the simplest product out there in the marketplace. So we came out with a very competitive MYGA product. So today we're going to talk about how you can have it your way, and I'm sure you guys remember Burger King. Well, right now I want you to think about us as Burger King for income, because income your way, any way you slice it. So 3 product solutions: the Ascent Pro FIA, the Athene Performance Elite, which is our accumulation product, and our new MYGA product. 2 new indices, the BNP Paribas MAD 5 and the Morningstar Dividend Yield. 1 great company, Athene, and if you haven't heard, we are rated A- across the board. We're looking to get another upgrade up to the A category this year. We're poised for growth, one of the fastest growing FIA companies in the industry. Our mother company, I think now we're 88 billion strong. So we continue our growth phase in a very, very rapid place. So let's talk about Ascent Pro, and then we'll get into our sales idea where you can make some money here. So I'm going to make a statement. Athene Ascent Pro is #1 in guaranteed income and stacked roll-up options. That's a pretty bold statement. We were going to show you the heat maps of where we really fall, but in doing so, we were green all the time, so we just came out with this statement. Now, obviously, we can't always be #1, but I'm going to tell you right now, 98% of the time we are #1. So I'm challenging you the next time you have an income sale to take a look at our guaranteed income and our stacked income and see where we fall. Also, you've got a new choice of regular payout, guaranteed payouts, or you can have index earnings option. Great opportunity for you. And some additional enhanced features as well. So you're going to win with guaranteed and stacked income by offering a great product with some great new indices. So let's talk about the guaranteed growth and the stacked roll-up options. So we have 3 different chassis. We have an Ascent Pro 5, which is a short-term play, has no rider on there at all. So if you're looking at CD money or money market money, the Ascent Pro 5 is a great vehicle for you. We also have a 7-year product and a 10-year product. And that 10-year product may have different chassis based upon the state in which you live in. So some states are going to have the bonus 2.0, some are just going to have the Ascent Pro 10, and some are going to have the Ascent Pro Select 10. So just check your state for availability. The bottom line is if you pick the Ascent Pro 7 or the Pro 10, if you choose the guaranteed growth option, it's going to roll up at 10% simple interest contract years 1 through 10, and then 5% simple interest years 11 through 20. If you choose the guaranteed growth plus the stacked roll-up option, the Ascent Pro 7 is going to give you 5% simple interest for 20 years plus a 200% participation rate every year. Also, if you're in the 10-year chassis, it's a 6% simple for 20 years with a 200% participation rate over that time frame. So if you take a look at this, on our 10-year chassis, we've got a 15% immediate bonus to the income account value. So 15% immediate, and then it grows. The first 10 years, it's going to grow at 10% for 10 years and 5% for years 11 through 20. So you can get an idea of how fast that income account value grows within your contract with a guaranteed option. Now, if you look at this, you can look at the 5-year and the 10-year with the 15%. You can see how the income grows at a very fast pace. We're just going to make the statement that we win 100% of the time. It's kind of hard to compare, though, when you don't show any other companies. It's nice to say, but where's the proof in the pudding? Well, here's competitor A, B, and C. These are our 3 main competitors out there in the marketplace, some with 10-year withdrawal periods, some with a 14-year withdrawal period. You might even be doing business with one of these carriers. But this gives you an idea of where we stack up against these guys over a 5-year and a 10-year deferral with our new Ascent 10 bonus 2.0 with a 15% income account based bonus. Okay? So, well, Mitch, that's great. But competitor A, B, and C, I don't know who the heck they are. Well, we went out and we did an annuity rate watch scan. An agent actually sent this to me. He was so excited. And we just put this into our slide here. And this is just one example of a 65-year-old with $100,000 deferred age 70, and the state was Texas. And this shows you where we came in against some of our peer competitors. And so it's pretty impressive how we stack up against some of the companies out there in the marketplace. We're not always going to win by that much, but this one just kind of knocked my socks off. So take a look at it. So what about the stacked roll-up? This thing, what is this thing? You know what I mean? Well, let's take a look at the chart here. You can see where the guarantee is over a 10-year period, how the income 15% bonus and the growth is very steady. And age 70, your income base is $186,160. So the guaranteed payout will be $10,239. Now, if you had taken the stack growth, which is a lower roll-up rate, it's a 6% roll-up rate every year, simple for 20 years, plus 200% stacking. And so, in essence, whatever you earn in interest in dollars, so I'll give an example. If I have $100,000 and I earn 5% interest that year in all my indices, okay, 5% of 100 is $5,000. If I double that, because it's 200%, I would add an additional $10,000 to my income account value. And by stacking that over a 10-year period, looking at the BNP, the MAD 5 index, take a look at the best 10 years, the average 10-year cycle, and the worst 10-year cycle within this product for the BNP, and where the income is after a 10-year period. The worst scenario, the worst 10-year cycle over the last 14 years would have earned an annual payment of $15,471, which is 30% more income over that period of time. So you can see how competitive this stacked roll-up option is. It gives you an idea on the worst, the average, and the best over a period of time. And the longer time you have, obviously, the better this is going to perform. And if you have more than 10 years, you probably want to do your client justice and trigger the stacked roll-up option. So how does it work? I just went through that quickly. If you have $100,000, interest credit is $5,000 for the year. 200% of that would be $10,000 plus your 6% simple interest credit. Boom. There you go. After 1 year, you can see how fast your money can grow at a very, very rapid rate. Now, again, that's the income account value, not your actual account value. That's growing with that 15% bonus. But here's the 5, the 7, and the 10, and all of our products across the board. You're going to notice that the income-based bonus is less on the Ascent Pro 10. It's 15% on all the other 10-year chassis. There is no income bonus on the Ascent Pro 7. And the rider fee across the board is a 1% rider fee. A 1% rider fee. Guaranteed growth, 10% for 10 years, 11 through 20 is at 5%, and the stacking option again, 20 years at 5% or 20 years at 6% based upon the chassis. We're going to win with level income, inflation-adjusted income, or even our new earnings index income option. So once you trigger income, you can get level, inflation-adjusted, which everyone's familiar with, but you may not be familiar with earnings index option. It's a potential for income increases based upon the interest that's credited to the accumulated value, and it's compounded upon payout. So this is great. So you're going to win with this earnings index payment option. It's going to deliver you outstanding growth. Let's take a look at this a little bit closer. So income year 1 at the end of your age 66 is $10,750. So if you chose a guaranteed level in this particular case, you would get $10,750. And if you live 24 years, which is your life expectancy, you would have taken out $258,000 in income over that time frame. Now, the guaranteed earnings index on the guarantee side. So this is the guarantee, assuming you didn't earn any interest credits over those 24-year periods. You'll notice you'll come up with $236,228. So slightly less, about $20,000 less. That's assuming you earn 0 over a 24-year period. Obviously, you're not going to earn 0 over a 24-year period. If we look at the average return over that 24-year period, assuming a modest 5.36% rate of return, okay, if we look at that, take a look at what happens to the non-guaranteed earnings index. Where does the opportunity for growth? It's a great way to hedge inflation. In this case, this would have turned up $364,962 in income over that 24-year period. The annual income that she received, or this client received, would have kept pace and exceeded the pace of inflation. Great opportunity. How does this one work? Well, let's say your income starts at $10,000, you're in 5%, so 5% of $10,000 is $500. So at the end of the year, we add that participation, whatever the dollars of the income percentage are, we add it to that income, so the following year your income would be $10,500. And that compounds on an annual basis. So as you can see with this individual, Nancy lived for 24 years, living to age 89, her life expectancy, she got an additional $106,962 or 41% more income over that time frame by triggering the non-guaranteed earnings index option. Again, just gives you an idea of how it flows over time and how it grows over time. It only took 3 or 4 years, 5 years to get above the amount that they were. What I like to key on here is the guaranteed earnings index amount is only about $1,400 less than the guaranteed level. And sometimes when you trigger a CPI one, it's significantly more. It's more than 10% sometimes. So this doesn't cost you that much because we're kind of sharing with you as a partner over time, and your income increases over time. Other features, we've got a minimum interest rate credit, a bailout feature, and 10% free liquidity. Available immediately. That was something that was very important to you guys. What is the minimum interest rate credit? Well, choose the number of years the contract's in force for, and it's a 1% per year contract. So if you're in force for 10 years or surrender charges for 10 years, you've got a 10% minimum interest credit, which is a 1% per year credit. Okay. Bailout provision. Currently, it's tied to the 1-year annual point-to-point S&P 500. Okay. You do not have to be invested in that indice to have this bailout option. Currently, it's at 3% for the life of the contract. That means that if we ever declare a renewal rate cap of less than 3% on the annual 1-year point-to-point S&P 500, then you've got a full bailout opportunity. You can get out of your contract within 30 days. Pretty cool, right? So that just guarantees that we're going to make sure that we can continue to bring you a competitive return on your client's money. We also have the confinement doubler. So if you are confined in a nursing home and the contract's been enforced for at least a year, the rider must be in the income phase, and they must have been confined for 180 out of the last 250 days, we'll pay for a maximum of 5 years. Here's our Ascent Pro rate card. Now I'm going to let you know something. This morning, right before this call, we just opened up the entire country except for New York. So this product is approved in every state except for New York in some sort of fashion. What does that mean? It means that it may be the Ascent Pro 5, it may be the Pro 7, it may be the Pro 10. It just depends upon the state and what product is approved. So take a look, ask your marketer what states are approved depending upon where you live today. So we talked about the 3 new products a little bit. Let's talk about the BNP Paribas and the Morningstar. BNP is a world presence in over 75 countries. It's ranked as the 11th most valuable banking brand. Morningstar, you should know, obviously, leader in independent research in North America, provides data on over 500,000 investment offerings out there. So these are our 2 new indices that are in here. Plus, we've got other options that are in here. We have the 1-year fixed account, the 1-year point-to-point S&P 500, 1-year monthly cap. And we also have the 1-year no-cap point-to-point S&P 500 daily risk control 5%, which is another terrific indice that we've had on the books for about 3 or 4 years now. So let's get into the proof of the pudding. Where do we go for participation here? So take a look at the participation levels here on the BNP Paribas MAD 5 and the 2-year point-to-point Morningstar Dividend Yield Focus. 130% on the Ascent Pro 5 and 100% on the Morningstar. Those are enormous participation levels. And the key to those are we're going to be able to maintain those or close to those participation levels for the life of the contract just because of the way these indices are built. They're both volatility control indices. They perform quite admirably over time. But that's how we get more net value to you over a period of time. The proof is in the performance. So let's take a look. With those types of participation levels, let's look at the Ascent Pro 5 and the Pro 7. You could take a look at the best case scenario. Take a look at the average returns of above 7% over time. When we go to the 10-year chassis, that increases a little bit more. Actually, it decreases slightly just because of some of the fees within the 10-year product. But again, more consistent between a 5 and 7% return on the Pro 10 and between a 5 and 6.2% return on the bonus versions out there. So you're going to win across the board with a solid performance over time. Here are the issue ages. There is a bonus to the premium on this. The 10-year bonus 2.0 is 3%. The Select is 1%. And the Florida version is also a 3% bonus there. Remember that the rider charge is 1%. So that's our Ascent Pro income when it matters to you. Let's talk about the MYGA quite simply. We finally came out with a MYGA product, 3, 5, and 7-year product. It's also flexible. You can add more money into the contract. It has a walk-away opportunity. At the end of 3, 5, or 7 years, you can walk away from the contract. There is no rolling 30 or 60-day window where you got to get your money out. Take a look at your rates. Now, some states have both MVA and non-MVA. So depending upon your state, you may only have a non-MVA version or you have both available. If you have the MVA version, obviously you're going to get a little bit more yield. If you don't, you're going to lose a little bit of yield. But it is available to you in both versions. Depending upon your client, you have that option to choose. Gives you an idea of issue ages. Again, liquidity available immediately, 10%, first contract year. Something critical that you guys had asked for. So we've talked about those 3 topics. It's been kind of long-winded, and I apologize for dragging you through that. But now I want to try and add some value to you. So if you stuck it with us now is the opportunity to sit back and take out your pencil and write down a couple of names. So let's talk about this sales idea. You guys know what this is? Of course you do. What is it? It's a Big Mac, 2 all beef, special patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese. You know how it goes, right? Everybody knows what a Big Mac is. So think about Big Mac and what the cost was. In 1980, it was 70 cents. 86 is $1.60. 2009, it was $3.57. 2015, $4.80. So Big Macs have gone up. They're pretty expensive today compared to where they were in 1980. So over the last 12 years, the average cost of a Big Mac has increased at what compound annual growth rate? What do you think? Well, I'm going to let you in on the Big Mac index. And a lot of people didn't know there was a Big Mac index. 5.62%. That thing has performed admirably over the last 12 years, wouldn't you say? So I'm here to announce that we're going to include the Big Mac index in our index offerings. No, I'm not. I'm only joking. But what I'm trying to get you to show you here is that, hey, inflation really hits home. When you take a look at the price of a Big Mac over 12 years, that's significant. You already know what inflation is, okay? Actually, you already know what CPI is, right? So you're all on board here. So over the last 12 years, the CPI increased at what compound annual growth rate? What do you think? 2.68%, almost 2.7%. That's pretty high. Not as good as the Big Mac index, but that's pretty high. So what is inflation risk? Inflation risk is the possibility that the values of assets or income will decrease as inflation shrinks the purchasing power of a currency. So my question to you and to your clients is, do you have any clients with money that is earning less than 2.68%? And every one of you out there should be able to raise your hand right now and say, you know, I do. I've got Mrs. Jones or Mrs. Anderson or Mrs. McGillicuddy that has that 200, 300, 100, whatever it may be, sitting in the money market, sitting in a one-year CD out there earning 0.5% or 0.2%, whatever it may be. So think about all your Nervous Nelly clients. How many do you know? These clients have large liquid positions in money markets or CDs. They're very conservative. They're concerned about market volatility. They're risk avoiders. They like the guarantees even though if they're small. They have a very short-term time horizon. This may be all of their money or may be a portion of their money. We call this rainy day money. That's the bottom line. So here's a simple sales idea for advisors to reposition rainy day money at their new review. So next time you have a client review, you're going to ask your client. You're going to target clients that have 50 to 100 sitting there doing nothing. They're risk avoiders. They like liquidity and guarantees. You're going to ask them about their money and say, hey, do you still have that 100 grand in rainy day money sitting in the bank earning next to nothing? Has it ever rained enough that you needed your money? Are you satisfied with the 0.5% interest rate you're receiving? Oh, what do you mean? You're only getting 0.25%? Oh my God, right? So the third step to this is this. You're going to ask for the money. Would you be interested in a solution for your short-term money that offers, 1, guarantees? It's going to guarantee the rate of return you're currently receiving. 2, liquidity. It offers liquidity on some of your money each year. 3, growth. Has the opportunity for additional growth to outpace inflation to make sure that you are not sustaining inflation risk. So here's the offer, the solution. Here's closing the sale. You're going to take all or a portion of that rainy day fund and split it between 2 5-year annuities. And you say, well, why 5 years? Well, both contracts have a short 5-year surrender charge, keeps them liquid, and it has 10% annual liquidity that's available in the first year of both contracts. So you got guarantees, liquidity, and a short term, okay? We're going to split it 75% into an Ascent Pro 5 fixed index annuity and 25% in a 5-year Athene MYGA. Say, well, why are you going to do that, Mitch? I don't understand. Let's see. Let's take a look. Well, if I throw 25% of $100,000 into a 5-year MYGA earning 2.9% for 5 years, guess what? I'm going to guarantee that your client will make the same amount of interest or exceed the amount of interest that they're currently getting or that they're currently getting credited within their money market and or their CD over the next 5 years if they did nothing. So if they did nothing and they just moved 25% over, we're going to equal or exceed that interest. So the guarantees are there. We're going to do exactly what they're doing now, if not better. Then the other 75% is our growth opportunity. We're going to put 25% into the 1-year point-to-point S&P 500 daily risk control, total return with 5% at a 90% participation, 25% in the 2-year BNP MAD 5 with 130% participation, and 25% into the 2-year point-to-point Morningstar dividend yield focus with 100% participation. We're going to give this client the opportunity to have growth over the next 5 years. Again, no income rider here. It's a short-term 5-year play. It's an opportunity for you to go after money market and or CD clients. And let's take a look at the performance. The performance on the best case is almost 14% on the BNP, 7% on the Morningstar, but don't look at that. Look at more of the average return of 7.32% and 4.5% over that time frame. Even if they got the worst scenario over the worst 10-year, 5-year cycle over the last 15 years, almost 2.5%, 2.6%, and 1.98%. Any way you slice it, this client is doing better. They have more income, more opportunity for growth, and they're not being subject to inflation risk. There's more upside potential here. So now you can offer them the guarantees that they want with better interest credits. 2, no downside risk with liquidity available immediately and the highest growth opportunity that's available. So when do you want to make your rainy day money start working harder for you? I think the opportunity is now. So I'm hoping that you wrote down 3 names because you know what? Every client should be able to afford a Big Mac in retirement. It's very important that they can eat and they eat good, okay? So if your clients need a better solution for rainy day money, you've got the opportunity here. Regardless if you're looking for guaranteed income or stacked income, with or without earnings index, we have one product that is really can fit any situation. Have it your way. Any way you slice it, we're going to be your best income solution in the marketplace today. We're going to challenge you to see if you can beat us the next time you're running a quote. And the first 3 webinar attendees that sell an Ascent Pro product with Athene are going to receive the choice of 4 different Athene gifts. You have an Athene pullover, a golf shirt, you've got a water bottle and a cooler. So the first 3 webinar attendees are going to win something. Looking forward to delivering on our promises. You know, we're not satisfied today. We're continually updating our products, making sure we're competitive in the marketplace. We're constantly striving to be the best. We're driven to do more. And don't be surprised if you see some more product innovations coming up later this year. These are the disclosures. I'm not going to read through them because you could be here for 10 hours. But I want to thank you guys. I want to urge you to reach out to 5Q and to your ECA marketer to get some quotes. Anything we can do for you, feel free to give us a call.
Mitch, awesome job. That was you got me excited. I'm going to actually put some of my own money in that product, so I appreciate it very much. So, guys, this is a great idea. We do these calls very rarely, but when we find that there's a product out there that's a little bit different than they haven't heard about or can fill a niche that nobody else is talking about, that's why we have these calls. So thanks again, Mitch. So any questions here? Does it count if I sold one issued last week? No. The way contests work is when you sell them after the contest begins. So nice try, though. I would have asked the same question if I was you. I get, he says just trying. Yeah, I agree. I would just try too if I was you. So thanks again, Mitch. The guys have a wonderful week, and we'll all talk to you on Friday. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.